I've got color artist, author, and knitwear designer Laura Bryant back with me today to talk more about hand-dyed yarns. Welcome, Laura.
Hi, Uni.
So, in the last few episodes, we've talked about what makes, or the different kinds of hand-dyed yarns, how to intentionally pool your hand-dyed colors. And now what are we doing?
Now we're going to talk about how to get rid of all those stripes and pools that you don't want.
Okay.
And that's what I call randomizing.
Well, and I know that we've all had the experience of buying something that looks beautiful on the skein, and then when you start to knit it up, it starts to...
You just don't like it. Yeah, often it looks like this. And this is particularly notable because it's a lot of bright color, light color, and dark color. And the more contrast there is in a skein, the more that kind of thing is going to happen. This is consistent 50 stitches, which was just picked randomly. And you can see how it's even changing from here to here. So if we want to do away with that, of course, we looked before at magic numbers, and that would produce something like this, these argyles, but you don't always want that either, particularly because it's either this size or it's double this size, or it's 1.5. It doesn't really help.
And just a reminder for our viewers, if you need a refresher on magic numbers, you can find all the information in the scarf pattern on our website.
Right, yes you can. So, we don't want magic numbers, we want something that's randomized. Well, then we need to look at pattern stitches that will do just that, and that's an entirely different look for this yarn. This particular stitch, and the things to look for that are useful, are things that use slip stitches and right side floats.
Okay.
And other colors. And we're going to look at all those examples. This one has a series of right side floats that are then picked up later on and brought up, so you get these long diagonal floats, and they break the color up so that you no longer have those really annoying stripes.
So this stitch really uses the yarn in an unusual way, so you don't just get straight lines of color.
You're taking advantage of the fact. So here's another one in its 50 stitch random set, and we got lots of stripes. And if we find the magic number, we can make it do these patterns, but maybe that's not what we want, and there's a lot of orange in this, and maybe that's not what we want. So I've found another pattern stitch.
Oh wow, look at the difference.
And took a color that isn't really in there, but it's related. So this aqua is not really in this group of colors. It's not the same blue, but it is related. And it just tames that color. And even though you've got colors gathering and you've got things happening, you're imposing visual order with the aqua.
And is this a slip stitch pattern as well?
It is a variation on a slip stitch pattern. It's called two-tone lattice stitch, and every knitter should have a good stitch dictionary. There's a ton of them out there. And look for colors, look for pattern stitches that use two colors. So you can have a solid and your multicolor.
It really changes the entire look of it.
It does. Another one, we saw this in an earlier episode, very stripy looking and very kind of blotchy looking. And look what happens when you do a pattern stitch with it. Okay, really I put black with it, and this is a pattern stitch called Swedish Weave. And again, it's a variation on a slip stitch. It's using a slip stitch to move the colors up and down and then imposing order with the black.
And what's interesting to me about this one is it almost looks as though it's stacking a little bit here.
It is.
But it breaks up.
Yes, it's actually employing the magic number, but it's not the overriding portion. So even if this were randomized, we'd still like it. If it was totally randomized, but it's a kind of a bonus that it's using the magic number on top of it.
It's a beautiful kind of stained glass effect. It's gorgeous.
So this is really where you want to look at the hand-dyed sandwash solids and layers colors that most hand-dyers do, because combining those with hand-dyed yarns really allows you, again, to choose a stitch that imposes visual order and yet breaks up the striping of the hand-dyed. Again, a semi-solid with two multicolors breaks them up nicely into little boxes. This is the same stitch pattern as the little hat, which in different yarns. And again, there's a little bit of gathering of colors that happens, a la the magic number, but it's not the overriding. The overriding is these little fleur-de-lis on the green background.
And everyone looks different.
And everyone looks different. Again, like you chose every single stitch to be that. This is a group of hand-dyed colors that are done in half linen stitch, which is another variation of a slip stitch.
It's a pretty dense stitch.
Yes, it is. And so you go up to a little bit bigger needle size so that you don't get incredibly dense fabric. But it's very nice for a structured jacket like that. And those colors are then blended through each other, and there's a little bit of striping that goes in there, but it's an easy way to handle a big group of hand-dyed colors, going from dark colors in the center out to lighter colors on the sleeve. The long tunic in the back is actually this group of colors.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, to look at that disparate a group of colors and say, how can I use those colors together? Well, it's triple-stranded. So blending, holding multiple strands together breaks up that striping as well. And switching out one at a time. So you go through a whole group, exactly.
Well, and what I like about that one is that you have the chevroning in the pattern as well, which kind of adds a little...
It does. It, again, is imposing a visual order and setting a pattern that our eyes are reading, even though it's interrupted at times because the colors are shifting. It allows you to paint with yarn. It's really what this is all about. And this last piece is a sampler stitch, and it is just exactly that. It is a big group of colors with a lot of solids that have been picked to complement each individual pattern stitch. And sometimes you do get some striping, but it breaks up. We get the visual order of these lattice type stitches, and it's just really fun.
Well, beautiful.
What I'm wearing is also, almost forgot to say, 3 different yarns. There's a little metallic and a wool and a tencel, and by doing 1 row stripes with a modified half linen stitch pattern, again, we're breaking it up. There's a little bit of striping, but it isn't that obnoxious pooling striping that we so often don't like.
Just a beautiful overall kind of texture. Right. Well, great advice to impose visual order, right, to break up your yarn paintings. If you'd like to try it for yourself, the pattern for this hat is available on the web. Thanks so much, Laura.
Thank you, Uni.
I'll be right back with Clara.